Uka Uka is free? No, it cannot be. Evil, great evil has come.
None have dared fail the great Uka Uka even once. But you, Cortex, you have failed me twice.
Great Uka Uka! It was that infernal Bandicoot!
From deep inside my deadly prison, I sent you simple instructions to follow. But you lost the gems, you lost the crystals, and I have lost my patience. There is now no other power source left on this planet.
I know we've had a few unfortunate setbacks.
And failed. But since your bumbling has managed to set me free, I am feeling generous. There is still a way to amass the power needed to enslave this miserable planet. And this time, the great Uka Uka will make sure that you do it right.
After many eons, my evil twin brother, Uka Uka, has been freed from his underground prison. Long ago, I locked him there to protect the world from his malice. Now, free once again, he must be stopped. Children, Uka Uka and Cortex plan to use this time-twisting machine to gather crystals that lay scattered across time. I have brought you here to recover the crystals before they do. To open the time portal, simply stand on a button and then jump into the portal. Good luck.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play the Crash Bandicoot Insane, and I do mean insane, trilogy. And last time, well, we're technically starting the third game, but last time we finished off Crash 2, Insane. And today we're starting my favorite Crash Bandicoot game of all time. Emphasis on time, because whereas the original Crash Bandicoot was an island-hopping adventure, Crash Bandicoot 2 was a world-hopping adventure, perhaps? Crash Bandicoot Warped is a time-traveling adventure. Granted, you're going to be doing a lot of it from here in this warp room. But what can I say? It suits the purpose just fine as a level select. We won't be going up and down floors as much as we did in Crash 2. Everything is handy-dandily accessed here from the warp room. All 5, just like in Crash 2. Now, in the Insane Trilogy, they added the fact that you can swap between Crash and Coco. In Crash 1 and 2 Insane, you had to beat the first boss before you could do this. However, you can hop on over to Coco, interact with her, and you can have her join the adventure from the get-go this time around. But I'm still going to start with Crash, just for, reasons. Understandable reasons, because this is still Crash. Plus, since this was the first game that had Coco playable in certain sections, she will still be showing up throughout the adventure, even if I decide not to play as her for the platforming levels, or any other levels that would normally feature her. So here we have the first warp room, the first 5 levels, and this is how the first impression for all newcomers is going to be made. So here we have Toad Village. This is a platforming level. I won't exactly say what the theme is, but the theme of the warp room here kind of gives it away. The second level is Under Pressure. No, literally, the name is Under Pressure, but it's also under pressure because it's an underwater level. And you can't play as Coco for this particular type. Only Crashy Boy on Under Pressure. Orient Express, here's one where you actually can only play as Coco. Not really much you can tell from the little orb. I see some boxes. But that's just typical of Crash at this point now, isn't it? Boneyard, where we can swap between the two characters, so it's probably another platforming level. And then we have the 5th level, which is another Coco exclusive. Ooh, quite the ominous looking skull there. Kind of reminds me of somebody. Oh no, it's on the tip of my tongue, but I just can't, I can't tell you who it is. But anyway, so of these 5 levels, only 2 of these are actually platforming levels. Sad to say, this doesn't give a very strong first impression of Crash Bandicoot Warped, because in Crash 1 and 2, there was pretty much nothing but platforming levels starting out. Sure, you had the occasional boulder chase and whatnot, but at the end of the day, you still were platforming. But there's only so much I can say without putting it into execution. So without further ado, let's start the time-traveling adventure in my favorite Crash Bandicoot game with Toad Village. Hey, you gotta start somewhere.
Crash, crash, crash. Why must you always muck in my mud? Oh, look! I have a mask helping me, too. We will find out which one is more powerful soon enough.
So Toad Village is medieval themed. Basically, think of King Arthur, castles, not so much the dragons. Because you see, Crash Bandicoot Warped was originally released on the PlayStation 1 the same year as the original Spyro the Dragon. Spyro was released, I think, a couple months before Crash Bandicoot Warped, back in the day. But, yeah, it was probably a coincidence that there's a medieval theme going on with this game, with some of the levels anyway. And Spyro had kind of a medieval theme, at least for some of the worlds and some of the aesthetics and whatnot. We have goats running about. We have crates that spin around, too. Time your spin, and you might get a better reward. Be careful, though, because in later levels, that might just be TNT. We also have frogs in the in the PS4 and Xbox One versions of the Insane Trilogy. There are trophies and achievements. There is an achievement or trophy by letting yourself get hit by enemies, not just in Crash Bandicoot Warped, but in the other Crash Bandicoot games as well. One example, you gotta let a toad kill you. And, well, it's a pretty unique animation. I'm gonna try and cut down on the deaths for this playthrough, though, because it's just the way I roll. I don't really like dying too much, but hey, if it's a Crash Bandicoot game, at least if you do have to lose a life, it's usually in a pretty hilarious fashion. So there is that much going for it. Also, for those of you that watched my Crash Bandicoot 2 Insane Let's Play, you may remember that I decided to do a quote-unquote minimal box run. Well, that was something to spice up the second game in the trilogy, but now that we're on Crash Bandicoot Warped, my favorite in the trilogy, we're going to go back to a format that's closer to how I handled the original Crash Bandicoot Insane, where it wasn't really 100%, but I did get everything I could on the first pass of a level. But for Crash Bandicoot Warped, for the most part, I'm going to be doing the levels in the chronological numbered order that you'll see in the warp rooms. There will be a little deviation here and there for one reason or the other, for the sake of condensing content per episode, or just because maybe you can collect a gem in one level, but the gem will access something new in a level that's listed earlier in the warp room. We won't be seeing examples of this until the last 2 warp rooms, honestly, but yeah, keep an eye out for that, folks. So as I said, this is an underwater level, which is interesting because, well, this is the first time we've done an underwater level in the series. It won't be the last, though, believe it or not. But yes, this is a deviation from the usual platforming affairs, but you're still in 2D. In fact, it's even more strict 2D than it was in previous games because you can't, like, move around in a 3D space, sort of. Just in a smaller, confined space of sorts. But it's strictly 2D. There will be sections in other levels in Crash 3, though, that do have that 2.5D mentality going on. Or maybe not. We'll have to wait and see if the 2D is actually stricter than what it has been. I will say, for these underwater levels, the enemies can be annoying. And getting a hang of the swimming controls can take some getting used to. Probably why they wanted to throw one of these so early on. I would say this is one of the more difficult levels in the original Warp Room, the first Warp Room, but not saying much because difficulty in Crash Bandicoot Warp. This is still a challenging game overall. It's worth noting that. But this is a lot easier both to beat and to 100%, but it's more time consuming to 100% than Crash 1 or Crash 2. Crash 2 to get 100%. It really depends on what version you're playing. Because, you know, Crash 1, if you're playing that on the original PlayStation, getting 100% really tough to do. Because you have to beat every single level by getting every box and not dying in a perfect run. Which, let's be honest, some of the levels in the original Crash were still pretty easy, even with that condition. Really made the difference, though. But they fixed that for the Insane Trilogy, of course, so they would make the game more fun. As a result, it did lose a lot of its edge in the difficulty department, especially for 100%. Now, you look at something like Crash 2, and I don't know, it feels like the gap was closed, for sure. I feel like the gap was definitely closed in that department. And we have this water ski here. I'm sorry I waited so long to talk about it. I really like this thing. It's because of this that the underwater levels are even remotely fun, I gotta be honest. You can do a speed boost, shoot missiles, and yeah, it's really fun. I like the underwater levels of Crash Warp, honestly. I think they're perfectly fine. So next on the docket, we're going to have level 3, Orient Express, and for that one, we're going to be playing as Coco, for once. We're going to let Crash do his dance, though. Can't remember if I actually let that play after the last couple levels, or the last level, I should say. It's only level 2. But before we continue, I want to return to Toad Village, because there's something I want to show off.
Crash, Coco, if you have already retrieved a levels crystal, then you will find a floating clock when you enter for the second time. This floating clock activates time trial mode. Grab it, and the clock will start ticking. Race for the end to get the best time, but beware, some elements will change.
So yeah, as Aku Aku was saying during that little intermission, I guess you could say, time trials. Now, these are in all 3 games here in Insane Trilogy, but in the original PS1 versions, Crash Warped was the one to introduce these time trials. And unlike the other 2 games, in this game, you have to do time trials and you have to collect all of the relics. Pretty sure you have to collect all of the relics, anyway. Doing time trials here in the platforming levels right now is not advised, but I'm not going to show these off for the most part because, yeah, you're just redoing the levels, but under time pressure. But I did want to at least talk about them, since this was the game to introduce that sort of thing. They are completely optional in the Insane Trilogy versions of Crash 1 and Crash 2. You don't have to do them unless you're trophy or achievement hunting on PlayStation or Xbox. But you literally have zero incentive to do it here on Switch, which is the version I'm playing on. Same with the other 2, for consistency's sake. And the 100% speed play that I have uploaded for all of the Crash games was recorded via the PS4. So that way, you can actually compare the different gameplay footage for yourself. I mean, there are other videos to do that sort of thing on YouTube, but you could look at it like you're watching a Let's Play and you're watching a speed play without commentary. You kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone, I guess you could say. But for now, there is a power-up you unlock to make this faster, but for now, you really only are able to slide. I'm shocked I got a gold. Like, yeah, for real. That had to, if that was the gold, I mean it had to have been really close to being a sapphire. But yeah, there's sapphire, that's basically bronze, there's gold, which actually serves as more of a silver kind of positioning, honestly. And then there's a 3rd ranking that will not make its presence known right now in the game. You have to, I believe you have to actually get the 2nd ending before the platinums start showing up. can go for them now, though. It's impossible to get them, though, well, on the platforming levels right now, but I was surprised I got a gold there, so who knows? And yes, again, you do have to get relics in order to unlock the secret warp room and get all of the gems. You access the secret warp room through a central platform that will not spawn here until you collect at least 5 relics. If you're skipping platforming levels, you'll be able to access the secret warp room after warp room 2. Again, if you're skipping platforming levels. If you're not, well, there you go. I recommend doing that after you beat the game, and that's how this Let's Play is going to go. I'm going to be doing a run-through until we get to the final boss, and it's basically going to be the end right there. I can't really say anything about the extras that I couldn't just talk about throughout the course of this main playthrough. So without further ado, let's see what Coco's Orient Express is all about. Yeah, now it's Crash getting blocked. Okay, this aesthetic is very nice, with the Chinese and all that. Ah, we're on the Great Wall of China, I have to assume. Oh, look at this hopping tiger over here. I think we're gonna ride on her. I think it's a her. Meet Purah the Tiger. Sort of the successor to Polar from Crash 2, if I had to make the close connection, because not really so much like the Warthog. You could still charge to get faster like you could with Polar in Crash 2, but this time around, you actually have to destroy stuff sometimes with Purah's charge. Purah's levels are overall much slower paced than Polar's levels. Like, when you're not charging, doing the tiger charge and all that, Purah really does kind of go along at her own pace, which is probably why these are the best animal levels in the trilogy, and that's not just my Crash 3 bias, honestly. I've played them all, and I can tell you, these are arguably the best. I have a lot of fondness for the hog levels, though, in Crash 1. They're short and sweet, whereas the Polar levels kind of drag on a little bit. The Purah levels, kind of a happy balance. Oh no, I missed the box! Jump over the wall! Oh, dang. Yeah, not a big deal here. If you die, or if you miss a box, just fall off the cliff. Fall off the wall. Why not? Yeah, I mean, if I can do that and save some time from having to... oh, that was not intentional, though. But, yeah, if I can die and just respawn at a checkpoint, I would do that, especially if you have the lives for it. You should have plenty of lives here in Crash 4, because I don't think there's going to be too many of the unintentional deaths, honestly. Whenever I play this game, anyway. But yeah, that's all 51 boxes. Pretty nice casual run of Orient Express. There is one other Tiger level, but I think that one might be the level where I actually just play it without talking. Seems to be a tradition thus far.
Uka Uka and Cortex want Tiny get crystals and bring them to big Colosseum in Rome. Crash! Leave them for Tiny, or Crash get crushed!
Gotta say, I really like the intermission cutscenes, but they also give away the bosses. That didn't really happen in Crash 2. The bosses were actually kind of a surprise, especially in the PS1 version. But now we know who the first boss is, and it's going to be Tiny from Crash 2. Yeah, he was the third boss there, but apparently he's been demoted. Much like Ripperoo got demoted, but Ripperoo only got demoted from second boss to first boss. And even then, it's kind of a stretch. Getting demoted from boss 3 to boss 1, oh, how you have fallen from grace, Tiny. That said, I do think his boss fight here in Crash 3 is more interesting than the fight he had in Crash 2. But for more info on that, you can look up my Crash 2 Let's Play. Of course, you may have already seen it, but for those of you jumping in with Crash 3, well, there you go. Now I can actually start talking about this level. Yeah, we're running away from a Triceratops, because this is a dinosaur prehistoric themed level. And it's the music here is another banger. Actually, Crash Bandicoot Warped is honestly probably my favorite Crash soundtrack in the series. There's actually another game that I think comes close, and it's not one of the other games in the trilogy. Funnily enough, I believe I might be doing a Let's Play of that game in the near future. Recording it anyway. Uploading it, another schedule entirely, honestly. But at any rate, yeah, prehistoric theme. I'm pretty sure it's new. Yeah, we're time traveling to the past. They're taking advantage of that with the whole dinosaur and everything. We were escaping from boulders in Crash 1 and Crash 2. There was one level where we weren't. I'm not going to spoil exactly what went down there, but there was one level where we were running away from something that wasn't a boulder. And in Crash 3, we're running away from a Triceratops. Hey, it's a nice change of pace. It's, in retrospect, it's kind of weird that they went from boulders to boulders again, with one exception, of course. Again, I don't want to spoil it. I will tell you that it's the last level of the second floor, warp room, whatever you want to call it, in Crash 2. And in my Let's Play, I'm pretty sure I did that towards the end of the second part. So, there you go. That convenience. But yeah, the slide from Crash 2 returns here in Crash Bandicoot Warped. Yeah, that was added in Crash 2. The slide, the being able to crouch and doing a body slam in the air, all that stuff was added in Crash 2. It wasn't in the original Crash, and they kept that in mind when they did the remakes for Crash Insane Trilogy. So you play Crash 1 here, you're gonna feel a little gimped compared to how Crash plays in 2 and 3. I've always felt like Crash 1, even though it is technically part of a trilogy, Crash 1 has always felt like more of its own beast compared to 2 and 3, which seem to be a lot more cut from the same cloth. Which is weird when you remember that each Crash game only had about a year of development between releases. Yeah, it's pretty funky to think about. But hey, the end product turned out great, and that's all that matters. We're gonna have another Triceratops Chaser 2. Steer clear of the pterodactyls, with one exception in a later level, actually. But there's a lot of asterisks in that department, so yeah, I probably won't be talking about it, unfortunately. At least not during the main Let's Play. Maybe in a bonus video, but I doubt it. Oh boy, the grass will slow you down. Among other things, get the jamming. Oh! Woo! Yeah, that one always seems to be close for me. But, we made it through. Bandicoots are not extinct. So, welcome to Making Waves. This is the first of, honestly, way too many of these jet ski levels. And the jet ski is different from the water bike from the underwater level. Vastly different, because it's above the water, whereas the other one was under the water. Yeah, big difference. If you ever look up information or pictures about the deep, deep sea, it's really interesting, I think. But more relevant to the discussion, there have been some changes to the jet ski's physics going from PS1 to Insane. And I'm not sure if it's for the better, honestly. The Insane Trilogy is, as of the recording of this video, this Let's Play, is about 3 years old. And I've played through these a few times already. I cannot say that the physics are better than the PS1. I would say, honestly, in this case, it's worse. I've tried to adjust, but now, whereas in the original, I feel like you could constantly move the thing. By the way, you have to accelerate with the jump button, and that's actually all you can do. You can accelerate with the jump button, and that's how you move forward, and that's all you really can do. I think there might be some other things you could do with the control stick, like when you jump off a ramp, I think you could do a spin, depending on the direction you move the stick, but oh man, these jet ski levels, you have to stop and go in Insane, here in Insane, a lot more, I feel, because this thing doesn't take turns as well as it did on the PS1. Am I crazy? Is it just me? I know I'm not the only one that's complained about it, but I don't know. I don't see everybody complaining about it, though. But maybe that's only a thing if you play the originals like me and some others, and you're trying to adjust to these new physics. And it might just be one of those situations. I don't know. But this won't be the last time we're going to deal with these. There's going to be at least one more jet ski level that I'll be doing before we get to the final boss. I'll have more to say when we get to it. So, yeah. All that said, though, if there's one thing I can give for Coco's vehicle levels in Crash Warped, they have some of the best music in the game. I don't know. maybe they made the music extra good to make the tension of not being able to play another platforming level easier to stomach. I don't know. Anyway, we're going to swap back to Crashy Boy, though, because, like with Crash 1 and Crash 2, you cannot play as Coco for the bosses, with one exception that we won't be seeing for a good while. At any rate, it's time to take on old Tiny Boy. Before I do this, though, fun fact that I forgot to mention in the Crash 2 Let's Play, originally, he was going to be called Taz Tiger. Gee, I wonder where they got the inspiration from.
Crash! Coco! Stole the pretty crystals! Tiny, take them back in Gladiator Arena!
Oh boy, the tiger is loose. Alright, so this fight is vastly different from his fight in Crash 2. In Crash 2, you had to jump platforms a bunch to avoid him. He jumped around a lot. He still does the jumping around a lot, but in a different context, because you actually have a flat arena to work with. So I guess in that sense, it's easier than his fight in Crash 2. But look at this! We got a swarm of lions to dodge here! Man, this is like... You know the Stampede scene from Disney's The Lion King? Imagine that, but instead of wildebeest, it's the lions. It's kind of like that. It's kind of crazy. Also, a tiger commanding lions. Here's something happens if you stand in this spot. Apparently that happens. Apparently you get eaten by a lion. So there you go. There's that death animation. I wasn't going for that. Supposedly if you stand there, the audience will throw cheese at you here, but it seems to be a pretty specific trick. And it's a thing in the PS1 version too. That's why they had that whole thing, but it's not consistent, especially here on Insane, so very risky. Is it just me? Or do these lions look a lot browner than they do in the PS4 and Xbox One versions of Crash 3 Insane? It might just be me, I don't know. They look like pure brown, whereas they had a little bit more color variation in the other versions, but yeah, there's some other minor weird things with the Switch version I've observed thus far with these Let's Plays, but minor stuff, nothing major. I still say the Switch versions of these games are really good, honestly, overall. Mostly just have minor things, but yeah, the lions can be hard to deal with. I would say Tiny's he's the most difficult first boss in the trilogy. Maybe even one of the most difficult first bosses in the series. So you gotta give props where props are due. And yeah, now they're throwing tomatoes at him, now he's dead. I'm trying to figure out the spot where they throw cheese at you though, but I don't know. Maybe they really did cut it out for the Switch version, who knows. But, oh, what's this? Supercharged Body Slam. How many times have I used that thus far in this Let's Play? Not very much, but hey, now if you do it, it's somehow better. Cool, but I hope we get more of these. It'll really spice things up, I would say. Yeah.
Well done, children. By defeating Tiny, you have unlocked the gate to the next time travel area. Go back to the center of this time twister and save your progress if you wish. From there, you will see that the gate to the second time travel area is now open.
Once again, Aku Aku giving things away. Alright, we're just gonna take our sweet time, walk back to the center of the warp room. Warp room time twister, whatever you want to call it. One of those. Probably wondering what that platform over there is. Bonus video content. Gonna give that away right stinking now for all you folks out there. But yeah, do want to keep the pacing of the Let's Play pretty snappy. As snappy as I can while saying all these things. So now we got Gee Whiz! That is a heck of a name! But it doesn't really give much of an indication to what type of level we're gonna do. I'm gonna assume it's a platforming level though. Next we have Hang 'em High. Hey, better to hang 'em high than to hang 'em low. I speak from experience in that department. Hog Ride? Wait a minute. Didn't we already do that? But now there's a racing line. Huh. think we're gonna save that for the next episode. I don't know. It's one of those feelings I got, you know what I mean? Tomb Time? Ooh, looks like we have an Egyptian thing going on there. That intrigues me. Next time on the Crash Bandicoot Warped Let's Play. Also this one, Midnight Run, this is the second Tiger level. But you can barely tell because it's at night. Yeah, you can barely tell. But it's another Coco, it's the only Coco level in this warp room. But, okay, Gee Whiz, Hang 'em High, and Tomb Time are all of these are platforming levels. The only non-platforming levels are Hog Ride and Midnight Run. And we're not even doing those this episode. We're going to finish off this episode with these two levels right here, 6 and 7. Oh, this is fun to do. Look at this. Back and forth, back and forth. Oh, look. Okay, calm down. Alright, we're going to do Gee Whiz, and I'm going to swap to Coco because I think this might be a similar trope to a level from the first warp room.
Why must you continue to be a thorn in our side?
Who? What? Where was I? Oh, Tiny was a good fellow. He hated everyone and everything, but a good heart nonetheless. Please be more reasonable with my minions next time.
Please be more reasonable with my minions next time, Crash. You know, you used to be a minion of mine, but please be reasonable with them. They're only trying to kill you. Yeah, all that stuff. Oh, look at this! The metal crates from Crash 2 are back. We could destroy these with the regular body slam, as I recall, but now you need that super body slam. Yeah, they introduce enhanced body slam just to enable you to do something you could already do in Crash 2. That's why it's like the weakest power-up, quote-unquote, in the series. There's only one other power-up I can think of, honestly, that's objectively worse than a super body slam. Thankfully, that's not something in the trilogy, though. Every other power-up we're going to get going forward is ranges from decent to really good. Or, actually, at least one of them is... No, let me correct that. 2 of them are basically game changers, honestly. Hopefully, we'll be seeing some of that next time around. Okay, we have a high tower of boxes here. What you want to do is crouch, then jump to get a little extra height. But when you do a crouch jump, here's the fun fact. You cannot do a body slam out of that. You can only do a body slam out of a regular, wimpy little normal jump. I'm trying to see if you can do a short hop and body slam. Yeah, you can do a short hop and body slam, so that's something. You're probably wondering what happens if you touch one of the goats in these medieval levels, because yes, Gee Whiz is another medieval level. We also have these wizard enemies. In the PAL version, which is the European version, they take 2 hits for some reason. And when you hit them the first time, they're stripped of the robe, so it's nothing but underwear, and yeah. I think the main reason they did that is to make the game a little bit harder, though, which is funny, after how they cut out a level from Crash 1 at the last minute because they deemed it too hard, even for Crash 2. It's really funny to think about that sort of thing in retrospect. Or in retrospect. Whoa, retrospective. We ain't there yet, Chief, for Crash, but yeah. Alright. Yeah, Gee Whiz is a much more fleshed out level than Toad Village was. I think Toad Village was intentionally cut short to give new players something small and bite-sized to chew on. But that does make the first warp room a little bit worse in retrospect. I'm sorry, it makes a very poor first impression. I'm gonna argue this. I'm sure there are other people that have argued it. Because Crash Bandicoot Warped does have some great platforming levels, as we've probably seen thus far. We're gonna end this episode strong with some platforming levels. But that's the thing, though. You have the first warp room and only 2 of them are platforming levels. It really does paint a worse picture of Crash 3 than what the final product reflects. I do feel this. As you go deeper into the game, and you're going to observe this, the non-platforming levels they'll be less and less of a focus. And you will see this. And even if you look up 100% playthroughs, whether that's mine or somebody else's, I wouldn't be offended if you wanted to look up somebody else's playthrough. Hey, variety is the spice of life, and I always encourage people to, engage in different varying activities and engaging with different creators, because it's very important to gather different opinions and perspectives. It doesn't do anyone any good to keep yourself pent up in an echo chamber of your own repeated thoughts and other things. Nothing good ever comes from the echo chamber effect. I never thought I would start talking about that in a random Crash Bandicoot Let's Play, but there you go. And I speak from experience because, yeah. Anyway, those scientists that are holding the swords, it's kind of funny. They're trying to get the sword because they're supposed to be King Arthur, I guess. But they don't really do a good job. Am I going to aim this right? Yeah, I do. But sadly, not necessary, because the green metal boxes return from Crash 2 as well. And by spinning into these, you automatically destroy all of the nitro crates, which also return from Crash 2. Those are the only boxes where if you touch them, it's an instant hit lost. I think in some of the later Crash games, it's instant death, regardless if you have an Aku Aku buddy with you. Mine is gold and shiny now, for some reason, but yeah, that's pretty cool. Except it's not actually nighttime. Hey, but stick around. Maybe it will become nighttime eventually. But anyway, welcome to Hang 'em High. 96 boxes. It's kind of a whopper. I'm not gonna lie. We have bouncing carpets over here. They're pretty fun to mess with. And we have a scientist enemy that I swear to God reminds me deathly of Jafar from Disney's Aladdin. 2 Disney movie references in the same episode. I wonder what could have inspired Naughty Dog back in the 90s while they were developing Crash Bandiman. Gee, I don't know. Yeah, it's no surprise that they kind of had a lot of inspiration from not only Disney movies during the Renaissance era, but also Looney Tunes. By the way, I'm going to need some concentration real quick.
What have we got?
Alright, hey, I'm done. I just need to get that whole urge out of the way here. But yeah, Hanging Grates is the exclusive gimmick for the Arabian levels here in Crash Bandicoot worked. They were in Crash 2 in the sewer levels. So, yeah, it's from sewer to Arabian. I think it's a step up, honestly. Also, I did a funny thing where, like, if you ever played a game that didn't have a sewer level, well, Crash 3 doesn't have a sewer level. Crash Bandicoot 1 kind of does with Toxic Waste. But yeah, Crash 3 doesn't have a sewer level. But it's not like everybody that's played Crash 2. Maybe some people that played Crash 2 haven't even touched Crash 3. Ever thought about that? So that challenge is still valid. Because honestly, how many games can you name that don't have a sewer level of some sort? I've even played RPGs that have sewer, not really levels, but sewer sections. It's kind of crazy. Also, this spinning crate, you need to land on the TNT, or you're not going to be able to finish this bonus room. I guess that's kind of a challenge for this level, but yeah, for the most part, compared to Crash 1 and 2, Crash Bandicoot Warped is definitely more of a pleasure cruise, especially if you're not going for 100%. That's fine, though. For me, that's fine. That doesn't mean that the game is a walk in the park, but it's compared to 1 and 2, I can tell you, it's a pleasure cruise. And it's always a great time to run through this game, let me tell you, man. I've had so many good... It's hard to believe this game is 22 years old. Oh my god. Crash Bandicoot, as a series, is 24 years old. It's really hard to believe all that, guys. Because these games don't feel like they're that old. Like, they really don't. When you think of an old game, you think of, like, the 8-bit era, the 16-bit era. Maybe even the N64 PS1 era with the blocky graphics. But even with the blocky graphics, with the original versions of the Crash games, man, the gameplay has not aged a day. Even though the gameplay in Crash is largely based on the Super Nintendo NES era. It just hasn't aged. But there are a lot of games from that era that have aged fantastically in the gameplay department. That can't be argued. So, I think I want to head back a little bit, actually, because I think I may have noticed something in the background. Huh. Oh, dang. Check that out, guys. There's the yellow gem. Are you brave enough to try and do a sequence break to get it? I'm going to tell you right now, at least in Insane, I'm pretty sure it's impossible. But I could swear I looked up a video of somebody doing it in the PS1 version. But for there even to be a small chance of that, you're going to need to progress further in the game and you need to unlock a few more power-ups. At any rate though, this has been Lasley. It's been a great time starting this Let's Play of Crash Bandicoot Warp for you all. Really great to be back into this. Next time, we'll be finishing off Warp Room 2, and we're going to make headway into Warp Room 3. The next part, the game, like level design-wise and all that, it's really going to pick up from the jump. So on that note, stay tuned, like, comment, subscribe if you want to, especially if you have something interesting to add to the conversation, definitely. And see you next time, and take care.